Yes, it's my pleasure to introduce to you Alexander Sczyrba. Alexander will be talking about the de.NBI cloud, which plays a very important role also in our project, the German Human Genome-Phenome Archive. About Alexander, he is a professor at the University of Bielefeld. And at the same time, since recently, he's also head of an institute at the research center in Jülich. From the background, he studied computer science in Bielefeld and did his PhD there in 2007. And later was a visiting scientist at Rockefeller University and a postdoc at the Genome Institute in Berkeley. After that, he returned to Germany, to Bielefeld, where he has basically, from his profile, I see like two sorts of activities. One is the research in metagenomics, and the other part is enabling infrastructures in the IT environment. And de.NBI Cloud is one where he has been involved, I believe, for quite some years now. And today we have the pleasure of hearing more details also about probably future visions in the development of these infrastructures. So Alexander, we're looking forward to your talk.
Yeah, thank you very much. And thank you very much for the opportunity to present the de.NBI Cloud here. Yeah, so now you should see my screen. Okay. Yeah, so I will present the de.NBI Cloud. I thought I start with a little overview about de.NBI. What is de.NBI and why is de.NBI providing this infrastructure to the life sciences? de.NBI has been a BMBF project started in 2015 with partners all over Germany. And you can see the different partners here on the map. And these are organized, the different partners are organized in so-called service centers. And the service centers, again, are focusing on different topics. So there are service centers for human bioinformatics, for crop plant bioinformatics, microbial bioinformatics, and so on. So you can see the different topics down here. During the BMBF project, there was already a discussion going on how de.NBI can be established as a long-term kind of service. And this has been done since 2022 via federal budget and via the Helmholtz Society. So since 2022, the Forschungszentrum Jülich is representing de.NBI together with its 23 partners all over Germany. These are the founding partners of de.NBI. The mission of de.NBI is to provision bioinformatics tools and services to life sciences users across Germany and across Europe, actually, to provide training for these services. So we organize a lot of workshops and training courses, again, in different topics of life science. And we also provide the cloud computing resources for academia in Germany. And this is what I will mainly talk about in the rest of the talk. We also organize an industrial forum once a year to get to establish connections between academia and industry. And of course, we also represent Germany as the German Elixir node in international networks. So when we started de.NBI, the different service centers started developing and provisioning these tools. And at that point, very early on, it became apparent that we also need some infrastructure to actually provide these services and to provide computing resources and storage resources to the life science community. And this is when we founded the de.NBI Cloud. That was founded in 2016. And the idea of the de.NBI Cloud is that we provide free compute resources for bioinformatics and life science in Germany. So every life scientist in Germany can apply for these resources, and everything is free of charge. The cloud is operated as a federated cloud in 8 different sites. You can see the sites here on the map. So there are sites at Bielefeld University, the Charité in Berlin, the Gießen University, DKFZ in Heidelberg, IMBL in Heidelberg, Heidelberg University, Tübingen and Freiburg. Altogether, we have over 50,000 CPU cores available. We also have special compute nodes with lots of RAM. So if you're in need of really huge RAM resources, we have special nodes with up to 4 terabytes of RAM per node. And in the recent years, we upgraded the cloud for machine learning applications. And in total, we have over 500 GPUs also available. And of course, they are highly demanded right now. We also have lots of storage. In total, we have about 100 petabytes of storage. And also for special applications, high-speed SSD storage, which is in total 720 terabytes. We provide different kinds of services on our cloud. It's basically, it is an OpenStack cloud. So OpenStack is a cloud computing framework. This is the underlying framework we are using in the different sites. But we also provide Kubernetes clusters and also a special setup, which we call Simple VM, which I will present in a couple of minutes. And we also represent Galaxy Europe, and this is mainly done by Freiburg University. They're running a huge Galaxy installation. So if you're interested in getting access to the cloud, question is, how can you do this? If you're in need in resources, how does it work? In principle, what you need is a so-called life science login. A life science login is provided by the Elixir network. Elixir network is the European bioinformatics network, and they provide a service called life science login. And this life science login is connected to Edugain, and this is usually connected to the identity service provider of your own institution. Like all the universities are connected to Edugain, so using your university account, you can get access. And what you do is you log on to our portal, and in the portal, you can apply for a new project. You apply for a certain number of resources, like a certain number of CPUs, storage, and RAM, and submit your proposal. And this proposal, so you have to write a little proposal, not more than 1 page usually, and the proposal is reviewed by a scientific committee. And then if it's approved, it will be assigned to one of the cloud sites of our federated cloud. And as I said, it's free for life scientists in Germany. So we provide solutions for very different use cases. So the default, I would say, would be an OpenStack project. So if you're familiar with setting up virtual machines, if you know how to configure Linux machines, how to configure networks and so on, then you can get access to an OpenStack project, which is highly configurable, and you can basically do whatever you want in this in your virtual machine in this environment. You can access the OpenStack via a web interface, but there's also an API access which can be used for Terraform or Ansible to set up larger cluster configurations, for instance, or cloud configurations. And then you can use any kind of software on the cloud ecosystem. If you're familiar with Kubernetes and you want to use a Kubernetes kind of setup, we also have some sites available where we provide Kubernetes clusters for you. If you are a beginner in terms of cloud computing, we would refer you to what we call the Simple VM project, which is a very beginner-friendly, pre-configured research environment. And you can get access over your your browser. So you have a graphical user interface where you can connect over your browser. This is basically the one-click solution for setting up your VM, or even for setting up a whole compute cluster. And then, as I said before, there's also Galaxy. If you're more into Galaxy, you want to use Galaxy workflows, this is also provided by the de.NBI Cloud, and this is mainly Freiburg University. I want to go a little bit more into detail about the simple VM, because this is something we developed here in our portal team. So the idea of simple VM is that you get a very simplified access to the virtual machines, that you don't have to set up like virtual routers, a virtual network, and so on. But instead, you go into onto the portal page, and then on the portal page, you click on the different modules you want to combine, and you get a pre-configured environment. So what we offer so far are these integrated development environments, IDEs like Thea or Visual Studio Code. We can provision RStudio on your virtual machine, or Jupyter notebooks. And as I said, you usually log in using remote desktop via Guacamole, and then you can start working on the desktop via your browser. This is how the simple VM portal looks like. So the usual process would be you log into the portal, you define what kind of resources you need. So here, this is an example where you define a very simple virtual machine environment. You see like how many resources you are already using of the resources which have been assigned to your project. So in this case, you can start up to 21 virtual machines, 7 are already in use. You can use a total of 80 gigabytes of RAM, 32 are already used, and so on. So you get an overview of the resources which are provided to you, and the resources which you are using right now. And then the next step would be to select a flavor, the so-called flavor. The flavor is the definition of the setup of the virtual machine. So in this case, for instance, this is a mini, what we call a mini flavor, that has 4 gigabytes of RAM, 4 cores, 20 gigabyte of root disk, and then some ephemeral disk, local disk on the VM. And of course, we have several setups, and as I told you in the very first slide, we can even go up to hundreds of gigabyte of RAM if you need this, or a special GPU, for instance. And then the next step would be to select a virtual machine image, a pre-configured image, and it could be an RStudio, for instance, that could be a Jupyter Lab, and the other environments we provide. And then you power up your virtual machine, and once the virtual machine is running, you get like an overview here how to access your VM. So these VMs get random names, and you can log on via your web browser and with your with a special password, with your own password, with the life science login, and then you would get access to your virtual machine. If you are in need for more storage than what is usually provided by these virtual machines, you can also create so-called volumes, and then you can attach these volumes to your virtual machine. So in this case here, there is a 1 terabyte volume, 1000 gigabytes. So you create the volume, and then you add the volume to the virtual machine you created before. So this way you can have lots of local storage or storage on your virtual machine. And then you connect either via your command line SSH using the SSH key. You upload it to the portal. So your public key will be stored in the portal. The private key, of course, you keep private. And using this combination, you can log on via SSH to the virtual machine. Or the other way would be to use the web interface and then use the graphical user interface. So very easy setup. and all the complicated things like configuring networks and opening ports and so on, you don't have to care. So you can start actually many virtual machines, not only one, but many, depending on the, as I mentioned earlier, depending on the resources which are available to your own project. And you can manage the life cycle of these virtual machines. Right? So you can start a machine, you can stop a virtual machine. So if you're not using it, you can stop it. So the image of the virtual machine will be saved to disk, and then couple of days or weeks later, you can reboot this virtual image and then continue working on it. Or of course, you can delete the virtual machine and then free the resources. And this is the other thing I mentioned before. So you can manage the different volumes. You can attach volumes to different VMs. You can also detach it from one, attach it to another one, and manage your own setup this way. So very easy for people who are not very familiar with like configuring Linux machines. As I mentioned, we provide these virtual research environments. So these IDEs, data science notebooks or remote desktops. And what we also do is we provide this for training courses, for instance. So if you want to organize a training course, what you can do is you can prepare this virtual machine. You can install all kinds of software you need for your training course. You can copy the data you need for hands-on exercises, and then you make what's called a snapshot of the virtual machine. And once your training course is started, you would provide every single member of the or participant of the training course with his or her own virtual machine, so that everybody works in their own environments. What we also provide is not only a simple single virtual machine, but you can also run a whole cluster of machines. So if you're familiar with like HPC environments, with queuing systems, and so on, this is also something we provide in the Simple VM project. So you can start a couple of virtual machines and then distribute your jobs via the Slurm environment. And this is also set up automatically. And the workshop I already mentioned. So this whole de.NBI Cloud idea was a very successful idea, actually, in terms of the user feedback we get. So again, these are the numbers I showed you in the beginning. And when you look at the users we have on our cloud, you see that there is obviously demand for compute resources in Germany, right? So this is when we started collecting these numbers. That was in 2017. And now we have more than 1,000 projects registered on our cloud environment in the portal. The projects are mainly OpenStack projects, like in this case, 650 OpenStack projects and 450 Simple VM project. And in total, we have more than 3,000 registered users on our cloud infrastructure. And the cloud infrastructure is also used for larger services, like, as I mentioned before, Galaxy, for instance. Galaxy alone has thousands of users, which are not counted here. So these are the OpenStack and Simple VM users. The Galaxy instance itself has another couple of thousand users, and maybe even more if you count users from like the whole world. And we have other services also running on the de.NBI Cloud that again have also thousands of users. So the cloud environment is heavily used for these different projects here. I mentioned earlier, we also provide training for our users. So if you're new to cloud computing, we regularly offer introduction courses for beginners to virtual machine basics, so Linux environments, command line usage, and so on. the usage of simple VM with research environments, and so on. So these are courses for beginners, but we also have courses for intermediate users. So intermediate users would be bioinformaticians developing workflows, Bioconda, CWL, Nextflow, SnakeMake workflows. And we also have courses on setting up or using Kubernetes clusters and automation of infrastructure using Ansible or Terraform. These courses are provided throughout the year by our different cloud sites. And we also have a yearly cloud user meeting where we bring together the users of the cloud so that you can exchange experiences with other users. And also this is showing the number of citations we got. So we try to keep track of people using our cloud environment. We ask users to acknowledge the de.NBI cloud, and we try to keep track of the number of publications. So in total, we have more than 900 publications since 2017 already mentioning the de.NBI cloud resources. So we are pretty happy that the cloud is actually heavily used. And this is also shown by the testimonials we have on our website. So if you're interested in this, just check the website. But you already see there are some related projects here already. So GHGA is mentioned here. There is the Berlin Institute of Health. They're also using the cloud infrastructure and many more. So check out the website if you are interested in these kinds of testimonials. I wanted to talk a little bit about the operational concept and the certification of our cloud. As I said, the de.NBI cloud is a cloud federation. So we have independent legal entities which operate each data center, right? So the universities and research institutes are independent legal entities. But we are working together based on the cooperation agreement we have, the de.NBI and Elixir.de cooperation agreement. And we share technical and legal requirements for the operation. So we try to have very similar setups in the different sites. And we provide a common cloud portal, which actually is run by us here in Bielefeld, the cloud portal. But we also have the local and individual cloud sites, which are responsibility for the IT security and the data protection. And in case you're working with sensitive data, of course, there have to be data processing agreements in place, and these agreements will be always in cooperation with the institute where your project is assigned to. As I said, the cloud portal is centrally organized. So this is where we do the project resource applications and modifications. So if you need more resources actually in your project, so if you're running your project for a couple of weeks and you notice, well, I need a larger virtual machine, I need more storage, you can easily modify your application. And of course, also the project assignment to the different sites is done centrally in the governance of the de.NBI cloud. We also have a central user help desk, first and second level support, and so on. So what's very interesting for us and what we began very early on when we established the cloud is the question of security. And we decided to get IT security certification for the different cloud sites. So what you see here, these are different certifications you can get for such an environment. One is the ISO 27001 certification. So we have 4 sites which are or will be certified by ISO 27001. And there are a couple of other sites which actually will be certified by BSI IT Grundschutz. And we think this is the underlying basis for processing sensitive data, so that we at least have some some management criteria in place in all of the sites. And as I said, we provide these research and secure processing environments. So usually what we do is we provide resources as infrastructure as a service, which are basically the virtual machines. If you're only interested in virtual machines, that's what we can provide. But we also have platform as a service, which would be something like the simple VM, for instance. And these are then these virtualized compute resources. The users are taken care of by the cloud side administrators of the different sites. We always have one PI, like a principal investigator, being legally responsible for the project. That means if you apply for a project, the application has to be done by the PI basically. And then the PI again can add more members of the group so that you can work together in your project. And as I mentioned earlier, authentication is done via the Life Science AI, which is now called Life Science Login, together with the identity service provider, which is usually your home institution, like your university or your research institute. But we also provide secure research environments. So for the secure research environments, there are more measures that have to be taken care of. In terms of technical measures, I mean, and secure research environments are meant for sensitive data, for instance. So if you want to process sensitive data, we have to take care of a couple of measures here. The technical measures would be the encryption of the data set. So this is hardware encryption usually, like all the disks are encrypted. We separate the hardware into zones so that we can process sensitive data in different zones compared to the regular projects. And of course, we provide SSH access or sometimes dedicated and monitored jump hosts so that we know what's going on the cloud. In terms of organizational measures, we require that the identity of the PI by video conference. Usually, we need a data management plan for the project, and we, of course, communicate with the PIs concerning data security. And then there's a requirement to sign a data processing agreement with the hosting cloud side. In terms of training, we currently don't have dedicated security-related user training, but the de.NBI cloud sites are also involved in a data competence center, which are funded since end of last year by BMBF. So we want to establish what we call the German competence center for cloud-based data processing. And within the project, we also want to establish data competency and also for processing sensitive data. So I want to end with a use case here, just that you get an idea of how the cloud is used. I picked this use case by the Berlin Institute of Health at the Charité. So Charité is also one of the cloud sites. So they are running a de.NBI cloud with the regular biosciences projects, regular meaning non-sensitive data. But they also run projects processing pseudonymized sensitive data within the de.NBI cloud or anonymized data within the de.NBI cloud. But what they also have, and this is run by the same team, is a clinical cloud. And of course, the clinical cloud of Charité is completely separated from the de.NBI cloud. But the whole setup, the whole idea of how to run the cloud is very similar to what's done by de.NBI. And the BRH team is also developing special software for these secure processing environments. And I want to show you one example, which has been developed during the EOSC Live project. It's called OTP to EOSC. OTP stands for one-touch pipeline. So that's a pipeline, an NGS analysis pipeline for sequence analysis that has been developed at the German Cancer Research Institute. So this pipeline has been integrated into this appliance, and it has been extended by a workflow of GA4GH. GA4GH is the Global Alliance for Genomics and Health. In a part of the GA4GH project is to establish workflows and also workflow execution engines called WES, which have some API implementation to use SnakeMake and Nextflow workflows. And what the colleagues in Berlin did is they integrated this with their own pipeline in the cloud environment. They attached it to the life science login so that users can be authorized by life science login. They get access to the special data, right? So the life science login is provides the authorization also for the special data sets. And then the data sets can be processed using the combination of the OTP and this WES-kit. So this is just a small example how this all can be integrated, and then this is actually run on the Kubernetes cluster in the de.NB cloud at BIH. Okay, and the last 2 minutes, I just want to mention a couple of national and European projects we are involved in. The most important one, of course, is Elixir, the European bioinformatics project. So here we are highly active in what's called the compute platform of Elixir, working on identity and access management. There's also the Elixir platform coordination. So the German node is actually coordinating the platform. There are topics like data integration for compute or hybrid cloud ecosystem, where you try to run workflows across different cloud sites. And another topic is deploying reproducible containers in cloud environments. And this is also all done within these Elixir communities, basically. So you see Elixir is built of these different communities working on different topics in life science, let's say. What we are also involved in is a new project called EOSC Entrust. The idea of this project is to create a European network of trusted research environments, and that very much goes into the direction I mentioned before, of providing these trusted environments on different cloud providers. And the idea of a project is to create blueprints, best practice guidelines, and software components, and so on, for processing sensitive data. Of course, we are also working with the NFDIs, with different NFDIs, GHGA, of course, as mentioned earlier, but also Microbiota, which is the NFDI working on microbial data and metagenomics data. And also for NFDI for biodiversity, data plant, and fair agro, the de.NB cloud is the basic infrastructure which is used by these consortia. And as I mentioned earlier, we are also establishing this German Competence Center for cloud technologies and data management. So if you're interested in this, keep an eye on the website. The project has just started, but in the coming months, we will provide training courses and so on. So if you're interested, just keep an eye on the webpage. So with that, I want to thank all the people involved in running the de.NB cloud. So these are, again, the different sites and the people working on the cloud, administering the cloud, developing workflows, and so on.